Hey, no singing, Chris. This is Footloose, and I'm Kevin Bacon. Wait, no, Kevin Bacon does want to sing. That didn't fit for me. I haven't seen that movie in a long time. Is it a good movie? I don't know. Hi, my name is Shawn Taylor. That's my friend Chris Ford, aka the Objective Geek of YouTube and Twitter. And Chris, we're riding a tricky line here today where we want to give a spoilers review of sorts, but we don't want to ruin the integrity of our other creative, spoilery reviewing endeavors in the future. It's a challenging line to walk. I don't know what I'm looking for with that statement other
I
than
don't
that.
know.
We want to give a spoiler review,
Uh,
but we don't want to give away everything because we're still going to review it episode by episode.
yeah. The thing is, it's a lot of stuff to go over. I have so many ideas about different um, podcast ideas on different episodes to do, from the best changes to the worst changes, top 10 moments, best ranking all the characters, ranking the fights, doing various type of things that are all very spoilery. And it would just be hard to kind of have all that into one uh, one sitting. But
Oh,
so today we'll go over just our top 5 changes.
well, and I think that's very fitting because in general, we both enjoyed it. And so I think it is very appropriate that our first spoilery review is over the things that we liked,
Yeah, stay
specifically
positive.
changes we liked. Yeah,
I like
uh,
positivity.
look
Look
for the
for the light.
positivity.
Yeah, look for
And
the light. You often find it. Look for
yeah,
the dark. That's all you'll ever see. I went on a tangent before. I'm not going to this time. The
but
tangent
it's
took like 10 minutes.
I know, but it's such a good tangent. But listen, it boils down to you're gonna find what you're looking for, essentially. No, I like what you said better. Don't cut that out, Chris. We're gonna give our top five. I'll do mine first on the even numbers. You'll do yours first on the odd numbers, and we'll toss in some honorable mentions. And that's all. That's all the intro. I've got top five favorite things for each of us. Favorite changes. Pardon me. Specifically changes
Yes.
for each of us. Go
Yes.
ahead. Take it away.
Specifically changes.
Yeah.
All right. Top 5. Number 5. Best change that they've made. Oh, dang. I should preface this by saying some of these on this list aren't necessarily better. I think my top, like, they're not better than how the original did it. But I think, for me personally, I think my top 2 or 3 are improvements over the anime series, which that is possible. They can make improvements to things. Um, and
That's
some things are just, and some things like I even prefer how the original did it. But I just think, oh, this is an interesting change. I like what they brought to it. It makes it a worthwhile adaptation. Because to me, dang it, now I'm about to go on another tangent about the purpose of adaptations.
no.
Adaptations are
Well, it's
important.
important.
See things and see stories and stuff done in a new light, bringing a different audience. Many of the greatest fictional characters have various adaptations. Batman is my favorite character, and on my shelf is about 100 different adaptations of that character. And that's how he lives and strives for so long. Many different audiences find different things to grasp onto.
Earlier, Chris quizzed me on his favorite fictional character, and I failed
You failed
because in my mind,
miserably.
Batman is
I,
not a fictional character. Batman's real, and that's how my brain was operating in that moment.
in my head, I was like, I'm gonna set this up perfectly, and it's gonna make the point so good.
He's not fiction, Chris. He lives right here.
That's fair. That's fair.
The Chris, no, that's a great point. Is that I'm gonna say that my top two I do like better, and we'll talk more about those when we get to those. I like them better. My top two things in the animated series. The other three are things that I just think add value and worthwhileness to this adaptation, and I'm glad that they're there.
Yes. All right. My number 5, showing the Airbender genocide, or really more specifically, showing the Airbenders before genocide. It was nice to see Aang with his people and stuff, and Monkey Yatso and that relationship. We don't really get that like right off the back, but it was good just to fit in the universe before the Fire Nation attacked. Like our minds are usually always like, did everything change when the Fire Nation attacked? It's nice to see when things were the same and didn't change
Chris, what
before the
changed?
Fire
We don't
Nation
even know what
attacked.
it
Yeah,
changed from.
yeah. So that's really good to see. It was also good to see, just cool to see different air nomads fighting in different various ways. Um, that was cool. And then just to see, you know, the travesty that was the air nomad genocide. And get a little bit more of Fire Lord Sozin as well. So that is my number five, showing the genocide or showing pre-genocide.
My number 5 was music, and I wanted to put it a hair higher because there's some of it that's really good. We both love the closing theme, and it is really good. That I think I would have put it higher if it's I would say it's slightly forgettable maybe during the episodes, and you miss that nostalgic hit. I think is maybe how you described it earlier. You might have described it better, but that nostalgic hit of having the intro every episode or whatever, and then it gets a little too ambient in episodes where it's not very memorable. It doesn't pop like it does in the animation, but it is noticeably different. Like they stayed true to the source material, but they still did their own thing. Like it's recognizable and it fits, but it is their own thing and it is good, and I like it. Number 5 feels right.
Yeah, yeah, and I completely agree with your point. I remember when we first heard the music, I was like, "Oh, this is like." Well, at first it was the exact same, like just,
Yeah, we did nothing at
and then
first. We're just like,
usually,
all right.
yeah, and usually when that's when the credits end, and then it started incorporating the Avatar theme into it. So that was really cool. Right now, Gordon Cormier, the actor of Aang, is on the Fallon show. Just clicked on it. Just nice to see them doing more publicizing it and stuff. Anyway, and he's grown a lot. Holy crap! I forgot that they filmed that like 2 years
Gonna have to
ago.
age him up, huh?
Yeah. Um. Yeah. So music. Oh, also point out that the music did feel like it was missing, but part of that's because in the animated show we hear the music every single episode because it is in the intro. There's no intro to that, but maybe we'll get into that more until when we talk about our five worst changes that they made.
Or our 5 most apathetic changes, which is the episode that everybody's really, really not feeling good or bad about.
Like, uh, like you know, we didn't bring up last time, Sean, which isn't on my list, but it's one of those things that I was the most surprised about, maybe, and it completely changes nothing of the story. And like, that was Han.
Han being just perfect. Just perfect. He's the pinnacle of a human. He's hot, he's helpful. What else?
He was respectful.
Oh yeah,
He,
he was like a respectful divorcee kind of, not a divorce, like a
yeah.
anti-betrothal. He We didn't talk about that. Chris, you know what? I don't think it fits in my favorite things because it made me feel bad for him. So I don't think it fits in my favorite things, but he was one of my
Died. He
favorite.
died.
He,
They
but
showed his body.
you
Like
a
this guy, before before he like after I was almost infatuated with the man, I was like, man, you know what? Maybe the chief dies, he becomes chief, and then
then he
he's like the grandfather of Korra and stuff. Like I was in my head writing the cool story of Han, the hero of the North. And stuff.
we would have put out an episode been titled like Han, this is why Korra's hot or something like that. It'd have been amazing. Han, Han, I'm sorry they did you dirty. And for what it's worth, I don't like this representation of UA quite as much as close. Like it's not a huge difference. So it just feels like they really flipped the scales there, and it makes Sokka look bad, frankly. But whatever, it's fine.
Well, I think maybe they wanted to show that, like, if UA picked in the animated show, UA picked Sokka over Han because it's so clearly obvious that
Mm?
Sokka is better than Han.
Yeah,
But
Han's
here
a
it's
d
like,
bag, and Sokka's good, and
yeah.
but no,
But
here
here,
Sokka's
Han, Han is like, is, is the guy you should be with, but for some reason she just doesn't be like she doesn't love him and stuff. And so
Han.
that also makes Sokka look a little better. Like, oh, Sokka, it's not that you're like it's just you. You're the person that is the boy of her dreams, I guess.
Han in the live action is what people like want Jet to be in the animated series, and he's not. But that's what they want Jet to be. That's Han in here. It's what's the
I
epitome of beauty and perfectness.
mean, I was just, and we were just ready for him to turn. Like at first, I thought he was put on
There
the
was a
front.
perfect time where he could have
Yeah,
just been a huge teabag.
he was like, "Hey, can I talk to Sokka for a minute? I want to go over some things." I was like, "Oh, well, this is where Han is going to be a jerk
Circus.
and be like, I saw you looking at Yue. She's my girl." Instead, he was like, "We could really use your advice on this, Sokka and stuff, and like, we value your." I
Chris
was like,
just
"Holy crap, huh?"
Chris just looks over at me and he's like, "That's not how I thought that was gonna go." And I was like, "Yeah, I can't say we listen. There's again, you're right. It impacts like nothing of the story, but it definitely subverted our expectations. R.I.P. Han.
Uh, yeah.
Chris.
Oh.
Oh, that's great. My number four
And
is
then this song was like, after they win, this song was like, well, with you leading them, Han, they should be pretty true. I was like, yeah. Hey,
like,
nope,
yeah,
they
Sokka
died.
knows right away when he's beat. Like, yeah, you got it, man. You're gonna be fine. Look at you. Look at you.
Why would UA want to be with me? I don't know.
Who he's not even, and because Sokka's not even funny in the live action, it hurts even worse. Like, there's it's just a worse
Uh,
version of Han.
yeah, but we should have a whole episode dedicated to Han
Han in
and dedication
memoriam.
to Han. Yeah.
Give
And
his.
your guardian angel. And it's just like slow motion of him. Like,
Can we troll people where the whole episode is just like his highlights in slow mo with like Sarah McLachlan playing in the background?
yeah.
That's the no, we don't
Uh,
say a word during it. We just like peacefully like hands in prayer. That's the whole episode. That's next week, folks. R.I.P. Huh? Chris, my number
oh, God.
four is and this is the only character change that I have in my favorites or my honorable mentions, and that is kind of a big deal to me. But my number four favorite is I do like this version of Azula better. I think it feels a little more real, a little less OP, a little more like a child, and the relationship between her and Ozai is a little closer to how I would expect. I like this Azula better. I want her to have sharp features. That's a very like not that the actress did anything bad. I do want her to have sharper features, but that's a very minor nitpick. I'm not saying that actress should
Um,
go get surgery or anything. That's not what I'm getting.
um, it's funny because I love Azula from the animated series, and you don't like her as much as I do. I'm
I
not
do
saying
not.
you don't like her, but you don't like her as much as I do. And it is that like unrealistic perfection that she has. And it's one of those things. It's one of these changes that why I think it's a really good adaptation in the literal sense of the word adaptation of adapting and changing things is that this is different and it's I think it's still good writing. Like it's just I like both. I think both are really good writing and prefer the animated series because Azula is that perfect thing. Granted, she does have her insecurities and stuff, but if she does, she doesn't show it. In this one, she shows it. Like she shows it to May and Ty Lee, and she shows that she's a little bit petty and stuff. Um, I think that's not necessarily out of line for Azula, so I think it's very valid for this interpretation of her. Like I said, I I still like it.
Yeah. We
Um,
yeah, I'm at number four still right way. I'm not into the territory where I very literally like everything about her better than than the animated. But that's a place where I appreciate the change they took, and it changes up the whole dynamic of the bad guys. Essentially, it's
yeah,
a whole different look.
yeah, which is interesting. Goes with my number four, which is Ozai is more interesting.
Perfect,
Um,
great segue.
Ozai is a one-dimensional character, and here he comes off more of that father of like he has I don't know some nuance to him. Even as a father, he's pitting his kids against each other to either he's doing it to raise Azula up. Even that's interesting. Also, he doesn't seem like he hates. Zuko as much. Like in the animated series, he is perfectly fine with Zuko dying. I
He
think in this one, he would second guess it.
he doesn't seem to favor either one that terribly much. Like it seems like if the roles were reversed, it feels like he would have been just as happy to boot Azula.
Like he just needs at least like it's almost like the survival of the fittest. Like I need one of them to
Yeah.
to increase
Or
to.
that is his that's where his tact shows up in a good way is that by pitting his children against either one of them or both of them is going to turn out to be decent in his eyes, he hopes. Yeah. Maybe Ozai is a good
And
change.
even
Maybe
goes
I
yeah,
undershot him.
and even that goes into his Agni Kai with with Zuko. Like it's not the like all right, I'm gonna punish you. This is like no, you are going to fight me and you're gonna learn a lesson here about mercy and compassion. Um, he's trying to. If there's more of a on. Oh, that sounds terrible. There's more of a on hands teaching here.
It's
More personal teach.
as in lay hands on teaching. The
Yeah.
yeah, there's much more. He's not just flat bad. He's I mean, he's still definitely a bad guy, but it's not just flat like bad for the sake of bad. Like you can kind of feel his motives a little better other than just take over the world, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah.
Awesome.
I brought it before about how I have a theory
Oh yeah,
about
yeah, we got to
him.
talk about this cuz I think it fits in with what you're saying
Okay, cool.
about the
So
children
when
perfectly.
yeah when and this theory could completely be wrong, and that's fine because I'm not in love with the story aspect. I'm just it might be interesting. Um, when he's talking to that Fire Nation rebel person, and that person's like, "What do you know about Lost?" He's like, "Don't talk to me about Lost." That's such a small moment, but it's weird because Fire Little Ozai in the cartoon really never goes through adversity, and he never thinks about loss and stuff. And so I'm curious if he actually loves Ursa. And then in this, something happens to Ursa. Perhaps she sacrifices herself to save Zuko. How would that be? Because he makes it seem like he lost something precious to him. And so, what would, like, what implications are there for that? Granted, that could be, I don't know if there'll be improvement or not. Their relationship in the comics is it is definitely abuse. Um, and so it would be a very different change if he actually loved Ursa. But I think it's up for possibility.
I think that's a really good theory. I think that having a slightly more nuanced Ozai could I'm not gonna say that they would portray it as like being a good relationship, but more of a like just a imperial duty bound relationship, maybe sans abuse and maybe with some actual feelings there, at least from one side. I don't know. That could be good. It could be nothing. Withhold judgment.
It's just a weird line to put in there.
It was not an accident, right? There's something else
Yeah.
to that. I don't know, but not a throwaway line. I don't think. I think you're 1,000% right.
Okay. All right. My number three. Now this is where I think these three changes. Hmm. Nah, never. I think my one and two are improvements over the original. Number three,
That's where I'm at.
I love it, and it might not be better, but anyway. Number three, Aro and Zuko at Lieutenant's wake. Uh, I mentioned this before that when I first watched it with you, right here, and I was right here. Um, just that nature of watch something with someone and you're talking and stuff. There was no, I wasn't ready. I think for the moment for the more serious emotional moments. Because it's just we're kind of talking and they're on there's a little bit less focus, I guess. If we're in a movie theater, I want to say that I'm not afraid to cry in front of anyone. If that's the case, I don't care. If
I
we're in a
don't
movie theater
I don't
and
judge
turns
people for
out,
crying. He's not holding back because of me. I'm not a mean person. I swear.
Like if we were in a movie theater and everything was quiet and stuff, I would be more open to emotion stuff. I don't think I ever seen an emotional movie with you in the movie theater. In fact, we've only seen Batman v Superman.
Justice League? Did I watch Justice
Maybe
League with you initially? I think.
I don't think so.
No.
Suicide Squad, maybe?
Suicide Squad? Uh huh.
No.
The first
Oh,
one.
in the Lego movie. In the Lego movie.
Lego movie surprisingly pleasant. Was very
Yeah.
positively. Yeah. Well, and
But
that's
none of
because
them.
I tend to avoid emotional movies in general. Not because I'm
Okay.
judging.
Uh,
Okay. You
Yeah.
cry
I
if you
love
want.
emotional movies.
I don't.
Coco. Oh man, I cry at Coco every single
Oh,
freaking time.
I mean, like I love Coco, but I love it as a comedy, and it'll get me to well up a little bit. It'll get me to well up a little bit, but
It would get
eh,
me full on good crying every
fun.
time. It has not failed yet to make me cry.
Mine is more the mood that I'm currently in. So maybe Chris, maybe you're just more level, and I'm more of a roller coaster. Because
Yeah.
specifically, I was just in a weird mood that day. But when Heather and I watched the Modern Family season 4 finale, it's like when Grandma dies and Alex gets a letter that's like stuck together, so she's trying to figure out what it means the whole episode. And like I just like crying like I cutting an onion at the end of that, and Heather's like, I don't think that was that sad, was it? And I was like, no, it just hit me right today, Heather. Leave me alone. I'm just a
That's
roller
funny.
coaster. But anyway, mood dependent. Yeah, Chris,
Yeah,
cry if you want. That's fine. I won't
yeah.
judge you.
So
It's good for you.
I say that to say when I watched it, also I've seen the show twice now. Um, First time Shawn, second time with just my daughter. But it wasn't like binging it through. It was just all right. We'll watch this episode today. This episode today. So last time I watched it, second time I watched it, I don't know. I was more open to just sitting there and watching it and open emotions. And this scene with Iroh and Zuko at Lieutenant's wake was gut wrenching. I think like first Iroh sitting there and he is almost emotional. Like he's sitting there almost stubborn and emotionless. And then Ozai comes up and tells him like what such an honor it is for Lieutenant to die in battle and stuff. Such an honor it's for you and him. And he's like, thank you, brother. And then Zuko comes up and gives him that
That
stereotypical speech like, oh yeah, it's honorable, uncle. And then he starts to leave and he comes back almost remembering his empathy and he tells Iroh about how Lieutenant gave him this pendant and stuff, and it said it was supposed to give him courage and things, and how close he was with Lieutenant, how that little pendant thing brought him courage, and um, how much Lieutenant meant to them. And like Iroh looks up, like there's a point where Iroh's just there's no life in him, and he looks up at Zuko, and then he just like Zuko saved Iroh, and that's not how the animated series is at all. Like, there's none of that dynamic. Even though that one time Toph said, you know, say how much you should say to him how much he means to you as well. And in this Iroh, it's like it is known that without that little boy, I cannot be here um, today. And so and then Zuko sits with Iroh, and it's just that empathy and being there for family. It was freaking great.
I think that is it's simultaneously like one of my favorite moments. But what would keep it sort of from independently living higher on my list is just the way that how they navigated Zuko's character. But that being said, like that is a moment in the show, which you're gonna hit like probably all three of my top favorite moments on your list specifically. It's definitely top three
Mm,
moments.
yeah.
Chris, my number. Oh, I'm
Um.
sorry. Go ahead.
Oh wait, I meant to say I'm curious where they'll go with Iroh because in the anime series, I feel like they alluded to that after Lieutenant died, Iroh just went off on a journey of self-discovery by himself, then returned to the Fire Nation. Here, he's in the Fire Nation, so hopefully they just explain that. And they're like, yeah, after it would make sense if Iroh's like, I have to go do some self-discovery so I can be in this boy's life. So I need to go leave for a little while, discover some things about myself, about the world, so that I can be fully equipped to serve this young man whenever his time of need comes up. Because I still need Iroh to join the White Lotus. If they don't have the White Lotus, then that would I don't know, that would be a mess. And and I feel like it'll be hard for him to join the White Lotus. I don't know after the fact.
Yeah, that would be narratively strange. I'm wondering if he will take an emotional journey, but he won't necessarily leave the island. And
Hmm.
he, yeah, just like an internal journey, inward journey, and maybe research.
Oh,
He's
okay.
digging in through a library of stuff, stumbles on the White Lotus, something like. There's something about this so
Okay.
far that doesn't give me a vibe that he's gonna leave at this point, but I don't know why.
True. I mean, yeah,
I don't have
I
a
guess
good
there is
reason for
White
that.
Lotus in the Fire Nation that he come in contact with and
Uh,
get. So that's true.
Maybe there's just something I get the vibe that he's not gonna leave here, but maybe that's
You
just
could
because
be
you
yeah.
don't see it in the original show, and that's maybe guiding my process
And
too much.
granted, my that idea that I have in my head comes from a interview with the creator or something like yeah. After Lieutenant died, Iroh went on this journey and stuff. So that's the only place it ever comes. They don't say it in the show at all. Iroh, the creators, I just said that.
My number three is, and this is important. This is my turning point. This is not better, just mad respect for what they did with what they had. And Chris, that is the narrative order. They took the same overarching story, and the middle parts of it, they told in a pretty strongly different fashion, a very different order of events. It had what I would consider more of a standard three conflict kind of story. In my opinion, like three little smaller story arcs with their own little conflicts that gradually got bigger each time. They managed to be very respectful to the source material and the characters, but while telling the guts of the story were rearranged and different and kind of chopped down, and not better, but very valuable, like adding a lot of value, a lot of worthwhile to watching a different story, to having a different experience with this show, with what they did narratively.
Yeah, I agree with that. It's interesting if I think about the runtime. Like people say, oh, it's 8 hours and it's 8 1 hour episodes. But really, those credits are freaking
Man,
six and a half minutes.
that's a lot of credits.
Yeah.
7 hours,
um,
20 minutes, give or take. That's my number three. Like, oh, so we're on to number two. My number two first. This is where I do turn the corner, Chris. This is better, and something you can't. You just not, at least to this point from what I've seen. I've never seen it better in animated than live action, and this is a great example. Is like the towns, the cities. So we've talked a lot about the big sweeping shots and how awesome they are, but there's something about these towns in particular. So, like on Kyoshi Island, the little village in the woods, that just feel real. Or you mentioned earlier, like when they were fighting in the marketplace in Omashu, they 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 feel both real and just they evoke the exact right emotion that they should evoke, which sometimes is that's amazing. Sometimes it's a very like humble feeling, like when you're talking about the small village in the middle of the woods. It just it is able to evoke emotions in me in a way that the animated series cannot. It is better, and I think it's great, and they did great work with their scenery, their locations, their settings.
yeah, I 100% agree with that. Just makes the world feel more lived in and tangible.
That's a
So
great way to describe it. It feels lived in. It doesn't feel like a clean, flat, two-dimensional drawing. But you know, you're not allowed to cry in front of me in movie theaters anymore. You cut me deep.
um, anyway, but So her characterization is one thing, right? It's a separate thing. But the story of Katara, I think, is better than in a lot of aspects. Her arc, if you will, in this than than book one of the cartoon. The reason why being a self-taught master, that is, Katara is a waterbender of Sun Water tribe. She feels like she can be a warrior, but she has no one to teach her, and so she realizes by the end, like she gets the waterbending scroll. And one thing I freaking love this change as well is that it's Grand that gives her the waterbending scroll. Like this is almost like Katara, the world has took away what it owes you. It's took away your your culture. It's taken away your power, your ability. And even I've been hiding this scroll because I've been afraid. But take back what's yours. Like show the world who you are. And that went from Grand, freaking great. Like it, I love that it came from Grand and not just stolen from the pirates. We don't need the pirate. We don't need the pirate. That's a very like that's a very kind of fillerish episode. Um, and so to have that, it's for in Katara is you see her training like every single episode. She is training. She's gradually getting better and better. Um, until the point where she fights Master Paco. Master Paco sound like I don't know Paku. Um, and she doesn't beat him. Granted, the fight in the anime series is much better, no doubt about that. It's just a more deadly. Like Paco's not Baku. Why do I keep saying Baku's not holding back? Um,
Getting some different
but
nationalities involved. That's nice.
um, and by the end there, he still doesn't teach her. Like he's not like, oh well, you're the daughter of the woman I love. Now I'll teach you. He's still freaking stubborn. But the other people around the village are like, hey, can you teach me and stuff? And then she grows there. Um, he doesn't turn around until he's in the battle and is stuck with like, okay, yes, you can fight now. Um, so Katara, this is more Katara uprooting the hierarchy and the sexism in the Northern Lion tribe, getting everyone to come along with her, and to the point where she went from being like I want to be a warrior to being the leader in the battalion. And I love that moment. There's two moments I love where the boy comes up to her and he's during the battle. He's like, Master Pocket told us to come and help assist you with anything for you to lead us. And she's like, he said that? They're like, yes. And then she tells them what to go do. And they're like, yes, right away, Master Katara. She's like, wait, I'm not a. And then she doesn't. She's like, I'm not a master. Um, but like, no, you are a master. And then when she fights Zuko and she gets the upper hand in the fight, she beats him. Zuko's like, oh, you found a master, huh? Which is the same line from the animated show. And then Katara says, yes, and you're looking at her. Like that's freaking great. She grew on her own. So that's one thing I love. Also, it is there are very few self-taught. I can count them on my hand. Self-taught masters in the Avatar universe. I can count them on my hand if I was missing three fingers. There is Katara, and there is Katara in this show, um, and in Zahir. Everyone else learns their bending from someone else. Toph learned from the Badger Moles. That might be the closest thing. Toph didn't learn from someone else, but she learned from masters. Katara is just completely self-made master, and that takes her up a level, I think, in terms of bending.
I like Katara. Oh no, that's not true. I
Well,
love Katara. I like how they represented her. I just think that this, in this situation, would be like the perfect opportunity for Team Avatar to really truly be kind of ragtag, like to not have the most OP or the greatest talents the world could provide, and it's just something that feels a little off about, like a little extra convenient about Aang falling into this place that just happens to have a girl who can self-teach waterbending and who doesn't teach him waterbending. I keep forgetting she did like he doesn't really waterbend, does he?
He doesn't. That bothers some people. It doesn't bother me
I
because
don't
it's
think
not like I
it
know he's
depends. That's a it depends, right? I can't tell if it bothers me or not yet.
because I
But
know she's gonna. One thing's interesting is that Aang is going to be taught just by. I doubt they'll bring in John John. Maybe they will. Um, Aang might just be taught by the kids.
I hope it's Ken Jeong actually portraying Jung Jung. That'd be perfect. The
Oh gosh, that would be
be
terrible.
amazing. The no, there's just something a hair OP about it that I don't need. This would have been a perfect. Aang's like the perfect avatar to have just the most ragtag mediocre group of average humans around him, and but that's okay. I'm gonna at least reserve judgment on Katara, but in general, I like how they wrote her and how the actress portrayed her. So 50-50 for me.
Yeah.
Chris, I think we are at honorable
You're
mentions.
number two.
My number
Wait,
two
what?
is Town Cityscapes album. I went first, yeah.
I did that last time also. I don't know why. Anyway,
We
honorable
can't. Also,
mentions.
Chris, I don't want to scare you. The audio started doing something funny when I was watching it. It started like having like a spaz attack. It looks like it's back to normal now. So maybe when we're done, I'll listen and gauge the damage, and
Okay.
I'm gonna be optimistic and cross my fingers. And then if it doesn't work, I'm gonna record a 10-second apology video that says I'm about to punt my computer through a window. Chris, let's
Mhm.
talk about honorable mentions.
Honorable mentions. Love the focus on war. Um, and how these are kids at war. That's how different this adapts it. Because they don't talk about as much how like they're at war in the animated show. Anyway, I love Aang being the catalyst for others' characters' growth. I've said before, the Aang doesn't really have a good character arc, and that's fine
That's
as
something
long
I
as
didn't give enough credit to, and it deserves it. So I'm gonna take your honorable mention. I'm gonna put that in
uh,
mine.
cool, cool, cool.
Did not give it credit.
Um, Oh, and to go along with that, so Aang gets more of the catalyst for a lot of the characters' growths, including Bumi, Sokka, Katara, and Zuko, and that's starting. And one thing I really loved was Zuko and Aang's bonding, specifically after the Blue Spirit episode. That was freaking great. Just add a little bit more meat on that bone for that. Nothing really changed, and that doesn't really change anything, but just nice. I like when characters just sit and talk.
I It was nice, and it was another. It was more than nice. It was really good. It's a good moment. It just still plays in the idea that the Zuko wasn't the roller coaster that my brain wanted him to be.
Hmm.
But well,
Yeah,
there again, reserve
that
judgment.
was
But
definitely a change. I think like he wasn't as angry. Um, I
that
kind of I got that.
that moment
Like
would have
I guess I understood it.
that moment would have been more special if we'd had more like bad Zuko up to that point, or like same with Iroh. The moment with Iroh that was like a what do you call it, like a flashback, would have felt more special if
Mhm.
we'd been dealing with more bad Zuko, like crappy Zuko in between there. Like he came out of the gates to chill. But that overall, that's another one of those moments that's still a great moment when they're having a legitimate discussion.
Yeah. Um, this next change is interesting 'cause I think it's really good writing. And it's kind of better writing, maybe. But it's a preference thing, fully a preference thing. 'Cause I still prefer the animated series. That's Boomy being jaded. Here, I think they couldn't pass up the opportunity to write a character who feels like his best friend abandoned him and left him in this time of war. Like, oh man, yeah, that I could see how like they were enticed to write this story about Boomy, but then Aang comes around to him by the end of it. So that's an interesting change. Like I said, I actually prefer the animated series better because I just love that character Boomy, and Boomy is definitely different here.
I there again, I like Boomy's approach, but there's so many other things about Boomy that I disliked about the Boomy sequence, about the progression of how things went down, that it lessens the impact of his motives for me.
Hmm,
But great motives.
yeah. Sokka not passing life dodging tests, or actually, sorry, he did pass it, but his father wasn't like, I don't know, it was kind of like, all right, we'll just give him credit for this.
Passed on a
It's
technicality.
really, yeah. was really his father not being, I wouldn't say proud, but just not having that confidence in him, and that affects Sokka in a different way. Um, which is, I don't know, it's an interesting change. It adds a little something to Sokka, a little something different.
And
Not
he got
necessarily better, just different.
Dad's not mad. He's just disappointed, Chris. That's even worse. The
Yeah.
early, earlier we at least got to make the comment of we said that we felt that his moment in the spirit world should have definitely come before Qatar's because coming after Qatar's really lessened how much I cared about his tribulations.
Yeah, you got to build up. And Sokka's worst moment is him passing a test.
Is a
Just
normal
him not
moment in a
passing a
child's
flying colors.
life.
Yeah.
Is something that happens to people. And then Katara's was a horror story for which she
Her
is to
mom
blame, basically.
becoming becoming a, a candle.
Yeah, in a terrifying fashion. So yeah, flip
Yeah.
the order, showrunners. Flip the order.
Yeah. Then the last honorable mention is I really like seeing the avatars talk about each other. That's really interesting. I've loved seeing like one point in the North Pole, Aang was like, "Hey, Korra, like you can just take over my body, and go into the Avatar state, just like Kyoshi did." He's like, "I'm not Kyoshi." I was like, "Yeah, you're not Kyoshi. You're not." It's good, and I like Korra now. But just interesting to see them talk about different avatars and their attitudes and
But
stuff
what
like
a
that.
lame excuse for not body hopping. What a lame
Yeah,
contrivance for not
yeah.
body
Oh,
hopping.
one change we didn't mention is I love seeing Kyoshi like fight. Like it's not like that scene itself is cool.
That if you split away the other stuff that I don't like, that literal scene of Kyoshi being real in the physical world and fighting was very cool. It's the surrounding things that caused me some
Yeah.
distaste. Chris,
All
my
right, those are honorable mentions.
I generally agree with all your honorable mentions, so I'll take those. I'm going to say that my honorable mention is more of my hot take. Is that keeping in mind that I approached this with bigger, broader ideas, bigger buckets. Like Chris went specific moments, I went more broad vibes. That's totally fine. But Chris, I struggled to get to five. Like I got to five, and I'm happy with it. But I didn't just have an overwhelming number of things that I liked better. I'm gonna say that there was things that I didn't that I disliked. Of course, there's a few things I disliked. There was a lot of things that I just don't know yet. It depends on where they go with it and what they do with it, or it was a good thing surrounded by or marred a little bit by a bad thing, and that prevented it from kind of making my list in the free and clear. So that was my hot take is that there wasn't just a ton, but it's just season one. It it's a limited is a very limited scope, and I'm not displeased by that idea.
Yep. All right, my number one is Zuko in the 41st Division. This is brilliant freaking change. I think that it's a almost M Night Shyamalan twist. Yeah, I'll provoke his name. I like M Night Shyamalan. I don't like all his
How
movies.
how
I
dare
love
you,
four of them,
Chris?
but
How dare you invoke his
but
name in this?
like Voldemort.
It's,
I'm Harry Potter. I don't care. I will speak.
oh, I'm not scared of Shyamalan. I'm upset with him. No, it is ironic that you're pulling out the Shyamalan twist commentary. That's great, especially because Abed
um,
is here. I love that episode of Community.
um,
To honk twice. If you want to do this again, honk honk.
so yeah, so them revealing that the division of the military that Zuko didn't want to sacrifice, that because he spoke up against sacrificing him, he had to face his father 90 scarred him and banished him and stuff. And that is the division that's been with him on the ship. Freaking amazing twist. I think it's really good, really brilliant writing. It's so brilliant that I think even Brian Konietzko, the co-creator of Avatar, would like it. Would probably even love it. I dare say. And I don't like speaking for other people, but I think he would love it. I doubt he'll actually watch this show, if I'm being honest. Right, Mike? Michael DiMartino, I think will watch this show. Brian, though, for some reason, Brian seems like the more like outspoken one, even though neither one of them are that outspoken and stuff. But I am confident Brian will not watch this thing at all. Because he'll just be like, we would have done this and this, and I'm sure there's stuff they'll hate in it, which might be an episode coming up that might, and I hate to, might theorize and speculate on why did they leave. Like, we watch the show now. Like, all right, what could have made what in the show would they have just disagreed with the day they left? Granted, maybe they fixed whatever they left, and they just didn't like the working environment after the fact. But anyway, great moment. I love how they set it up. Commander G is, when Zuko's mean to himself and he goes on this rant, Iroh, it's like he might be the Fire Nation prince. He's not our prince. And then Zuko goes missing for a while, and Iroh tells him, like, you ever wonder why you got commissioned to this ship? And he tells him about Zuko's story and stuff and the Agni Kai. And then Iroh's like, and then, he tells the story, and then Commander G is like, the 41st Division? Well, we're the 41st Division. And one would be like, Iroh would be like, yeah, you dummy. Did you
Thanks
not
for
get that when I
listening.
started the
Damn.
story? When I started the story, five that time when I mentioned that Zuko didn't want to sacrifice the first division, you didn't connect the dots at that point.
That should have been the
Anyway,
first thing that you thought. Be like, oh damn. But no, you just sat around staring into
let's
blank
just change
space,
division title.
thinking about your your mutton chops
Yeah,
on your face.
yeah. So then when Zuko returns, they're like, "Our princess returned," and they all bow to him. Such a great moment, and I even tear up a little bit at that moment as well, because it's just, I don't know, it's like Zuko owning himself. When the Iroh sees him, there's this proud look on Iroh's face. It's such a great moment. Um, oh, another thing I wanted to mention real quick is when Iroh, um, after they show the Agni Kai, Iroh tells Zuko, like, he gets on the ship with Zuko, and Iroh tells him, and Zuko's like, "You sure you want to come with us? Like, we're gonna be, it could be years." And Iroh's like, "I have everything I need on this ship." And it's such a heartwarming moment because Zuko is everything he needs. But then he breaks out a little bit of comedy of like, "I have all the tea I need," and then so that's a great moment. That's number one.
It might be my favorite moment in the show. It's definitely top 3 favorite moments in the show. Chris, my number 1 favorite change in the show is Han, and that's it. No, my number 1 favorite change in the show is, so I agree completely. I approached it slightly differently. I went big bucket with this, but what you're saying is a key. What you just said is a key driver to this, and that's the way that they handled all of the wartime aspects of the show. Both A, adding kind of value and worthwhileness in a way that the animated series couldn't, and B, because it produced several of my favorite moments of the show, including that twist, including Zuko sitting with Iroh, including the Airbender genocide, including some cool, albeit disturbing, on-screen things. The cold open, the Omashu story, like all of my favorite things about this show, period, came from sort of a better, real feeling representation of wartime. And I think they did a good job, and that's probably the number one reason why I would pitch this show as like a valuable entity to other Avatar fans to go watch this show, even if
Mm,
you were on the fence.
yeah, yeah. It is a lot more focused on war and spies and stuff. That was freaking great. Great addition. There's spies in the Fire Nation. There's spies in the Earth Kingdom. There's spies everywhere. Um, and then, oh yeah, that shout out to that Earth Kingdom soldier who was a spy. Like his Earth, I want to know his story in the cold open. Um, like, 'cause he was doing some great
In
bending.
his
He
in
was
his
like probably,
Rogue One cold open.
yeah, which led nowhere, which is cool though. Because I mentioned to, I think on Twitter, that like the opening to this reminds me of the opening to Mulan, where the villains, like, they're like, because in Mulan he lights the torches and stuff, right? And he's like, now all of China knows you're here. And I forgot the guy's name.
What is his
Um,
name? I can't
Mongol.
think. What is the bad guy's name?
leader of the Mongols.
Yes.
He's like, good. I want them all to know. And then in this, Fire Lord Sultan's like, good. I want them all to know. And because very similar moments about messengers trying to get something out, trying to get a message out that the bad guy wants them to get out.
They just I don't know what else to say other than that. Maybe here's how I'll wrap it up: is that like I'm a guy who obviously would prefer a lighthearted animated series to a television show about war, like in a nutshell. Like obviously, me personally, gonna go with the animated series and the lightheartedness. But no, they did a really nice job of using that to shape their story differently and delivering it very well.
Yeah. I
Chris, a lot of favorite things to talk about. Next week, perhaps we will take on a different angle, and eventually we'll
all
probably
about
review
home. No, I'm kidding. Well,
all
we
about
probably are. Top five worst stages.
just 50 minutes of sad funeral music. Amazing. Uh, some week we will do that. We'll just like catch people totally off guard. But
in,
in the
memor-
meantime,
in memorandum.
it. But wait,
It's
no,
like,
no. We'll title it something still like clickbaity title, like best character in the new series, like something like that, right? And they turn it on, and it's just us like trying to hold it together with the music in the background, and we don't say a thing the whole time. It'll be perfect.
I'll be singing Boys to Man. Till we go.
I'll be crying like I'm watching season 4 of Modern Family finale. It'll be great. And but like I said, we'll still title it something kind of like standard YouTube titling mechanism to get people into the video, so then we can rickroll them. A much more respectable rickroll, in my
Yeah.
opinion. Chris, this has been Avatar: The Last Podcasters. Thanks everybody for watching, listening. I appreciate you, and all of the nice comments, thumbs up, subs, bells, reviews, whatever you want to leave us. We appreciate them all. Thank you very much for those. They're great. Thank you. And I'll leave more stuff down in the description like always. My name's Shawn. That's Chris Ford, aka The Objective Geek. And we'll see you next time. If I still have a computer that I haven't punted out a window.
I was trying to like